Hello and welcome to Movies You Miss Podcast. I'm V.
I'm John.
And we are two industry veterans who recommend movies without spoiling them.
Not one spoiler here.
And this week we're diving into animated movies.
Hey, we are diving, aren't we? Nice. I like it. These are very wet movies.
Yes, I was very motivated to go jump in the ocean after watching both of these.
I wholeheartedly agree. I love the ocean. I've always loved the ocean. I'm pretty sure I was a salty dog back in the day in a previous life, and I just can't get enough of that ocean spray and them waves.
The ocean has been an acquired taste for me. I didn't used to like it when I was growing up. I didn't like any water that I couldn't see the bottom of. I was actually terrified of it.
Oh, yeah.
And wouldn't go in the ocean for many, many years, and then got over that fear by making myself get my scuba diving license.
I remember you telling me that, I think, during the Abyss episode, if I remember correctly.
That's right. So today we're jumping in again, but before we do that, we like to discuss movies we've seen in theaters this week.
Yeah.
And we actually saw the same movie in theaters this week.
We did, which does not happen often.
No, it needs to happen more often, in fact.
I agree. Especially if we can do it together, that would be the best way to do it.
It is the most fun.
The most fun?
Well, since you pressured me into watching this movie, actually, and I succumbed to that peer pressure, why don't you tell everybody what we watched this week?
All right, I shall. We went and saw the new Denzel Washington, Antoine Fuqua directed third installment of The Equalizer. And this was titled The Equalizer 3.
How about that?
I know, a trilogy, right? I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be straight up, I enjoyed every fucking minute of this movie. I thought it was awesome and badass. It ended, and I think it ended just the way it should have. And I'm curious, V, what you thought.
I absolutely enjoyed it, so much so that I went back and watched the first two.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. I hadn't seen the first two in a while. I still haven't actually gone back to the first two.
Yes, I asked if it was essential for me to watch the first two, and I thankfully was told no, it's not, and I got a quick rundown of the general plot and purpose of these movies and his character, and wasn't feeling lost at all during the third one. Really enjoyed it, and like I said, to a point where I went back home and watched the first two, which are streaming right now, which is helpful. And yes, I had a grand old time. I thought it ended wonderfully it seemed like a movie star and a director who are wrapping up a trilogy. That's what
absolutely.
It felt like to me. So
very much so.
I thought it wrapped up quite nicely. It had a nod to a couple of the previous movies that I found out later, which is also cool.
Oh, yes. I very much enjoyed that as well.
And how delighted were the two of us that there was a reuniting in this movie.
I know. Yeah, that was so awesome.
I was very stoked to see that, and I was just so tickled every time they were in a scene together, and they did a great job, and I really want to see some behind the scenes regarding the filming of this movie because of that. And so I certainly recommend it as a great brutal action movie, and I also recommend the first two.
Oh, hell yeah. I actually got a little bit of a recap of the first two by my father-in-law, who I went and saw the third installment with. And I had seen the first two, but it's been a while, so he recapping them for me was like, oh my gosh, I remember. And then, like you said, V, there's a nod to a couple of the other movies, and it's like, oh, sweet. So yeah, it like you said, it was brutal, it was gruesome.
Yes. There
was some definite intense violence in this movie, but I gotta tell you, it was great. I had an absolute blast, like V said. A very good movie, great way to wrap it up. It was a complete round of applause for me.
Absolutely, and I left that movie theater thinking, he's basically the Black John Wick. This is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
100%.
If any of you listeners are a fan of either those movies or good, just really satisfying revenge stories or Quentin Tarantino movies, there's kind of that brutality there.
Yes.
Definitely give the Equalizer movies, any of them actually, a shot.
Absolutely. In theaters now, and if you haven't listened to our episode from last week, which is Denzel themed, then you got to do that as well.
That's right, and that's the reason why we scheduled that episode for last week, is specifically because Equalizer 3 was coming out, and that was all John's idea, so thank you.
Oh, of course, anytime.
Now that we discussed the newer movies we've seen, you want to wade over to your pick of the week.
Why not? And like I mentioned in last week's episode, this film comes from the year, my favorite year, apparently, here at Movies You Miss Podcast, the year 2007. I'm talking about the animated documentary Surf's Up. This film stars the voice talents of Shia LaBeouf, Zooey Deschanel, Jeff Bridges, James Woods, John Heder, Kelly Slater, Rob Mikado, Brian Posehn, and a handful of other people.
Dietrich Bader?
Oh, thank you. Yes, Dietrich Bader. That's right. Yes, he is in this movie. And he has his Rex Kwon Do voice from Napoleon Dynamite in it as well. So I guess we have Dietrich Bader and John Heder in a movie together again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome because just a few years earlier in 2004, we got Napoleon Dynamite, and that's also a great movie. But Surf's Up, for those of you that haven't seen this movie, I'll just start off by saying that I absolutely adore this movie. I saw this one night when I was just out of the hospital. I was staying at my parents' house, and my sister had been telling me about it for about a week. She was like, have you seen Surf's Up? You got to see it. I think you really like it. It's really funny. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I went through this medical thing, and I was staying at my parents' house and ended up putting this movie on. And the first 15 minutes, I just had tears down my face because I was laughing so hard. And then my father came home, and he was like, what are you watching? I said, oh, I'm watching this movie Surf's Up that Lauren has been telling me about. And he said, oh, I've been wanting to watch it. I said, oh, I'll start it over. So I started it over, and we all watched it and absolutely fell in love with this movie. If you don't know anything about this movie, like I've said, it is an animated documentary. This movie follows Cody Maverick, a penguin from Shiverpool, Antarctica. He is a bit of a sore thumb, a black sheep of the family. He doesn't necessarily want to spend the rest of his life in Shiverpool. He doesn't want to sort fish for the rest of his life, which is the job that he currently has right now.
Yeah, I was born and raised here in Shiverpool. Lived here my whole life. It's where they sort the fish. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. But yeah, I worked there just to kind of pacify my mom a little bit. Good old Shiverpool. This place sucks, bro.
So he's trying to get to Pangu Island where they do this surf off. You know, it's like any other surf competition across the world that you've seen on any ESPN or sports network or any movie that has to do with it. Surf Ninjas, Chasing Mavericks, if you've seen Chasing Mavericks, which I have not seen Chasing Mavericks, but I hear it's a good movie. V, have you seen Chasing Mavericks?
Is that a documentary?
No, it's a movie about surfing with Gerard Butler from several years ago. Oh, is it bad? All right, well, I guess it's a good thing I never saw it.
Step Into Liquid is a documentary about surfing that's very good, though.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I'm also a big fan of Lords of Dogtown. Those guys started out as surfers, and then they got on the pavement with their skateboards. Stacy Peralta and all of them out there in Venice Beach. So getting back to Surf's Up, documentary style, animated movie about Cody Maverick wanting to leave Shiverpool. He is recruited by this guy, Mike. He's a bird. I don't know what kind of bird he is.
He's kind of like a sandpiper or something.
Yeah, he's got those really thin legs and he moves really fast. So he's one of those beach type of birds that you see, you know, going after the sand crabs and whatnot. And the cool thing about how this movie opens is it's an interview with Cody Maverick with the documentary filmmakers. And the documentary filmmakers are voiced by the directors of this movie, Ash Brannon and Chris Buck. And if anybody remembers the name Chris Buck, we did discuss him already on this podcast for my Tarzan pick several episodes ago. He is a very talented animation director, and we'll get into a little bit more of his career shortly. So Cody Maverick is giving them the spiel about why he wants to leave Shiverpool. He tells a story about how he met Big Z and has always been idolizing Big Z. He's the king of the waves.
Could you tell us who Big Z was?
Who is Big Z? You're asking the right guy. You got that far. Z is everything. Big Z is surfing, man. I mean, there may well has not been an ocean before Z. They invented the ocean for him.
And at one point, Big Z showed up to Shiverpool, Antarctica, and gave him a Big Z necklace and told him to never give up, you know, and follow your dreams. And if you continually work hard, then your dreams can come true. So after Z leaves, Cody really puts his mind to surfing. He kind of shirks his responsibilities at home a little bit and really just focuses on the water and training so that when the time comes, he can get to Pangu Island and compete in this world-renowned surfing competition. And he ends up meeting a recruiter that comes to Shiverpool because he's heard of Cody. And for whatever reason, things aren't working out. So he ends up leaving without Cody. But Cody's so persistent that he follows him. And after much convincing he is put on the roster for this competition. And in the midst of all of this, we get introduced to Chicken Joe, who is voiced by John Heder. And I love the introduction to him because Cody's like, oh, I'm from Shiverpool. How about you? And he goes, no, I'm not from Shiverpool. I don't know why. I just think that that's hysterical. And he's like, dude, I'm from Lake Michigan. Like, there's so many awesome edits in this movie. And the documentary feel of it really just brings a lot of authenticity to the animation. And the cool thing about how this movie was voiced is that majority of the actors were actually in the same room with each other, interacting with each other physically. All of this movie is basically improvised. There is not a very solid script that was written for this movie. And it has a lot of really good back and forth and banter between every character on screen. Even the insults just feel natural. You know, it's not like one of those like things that you would say, oh, that was a very well written insult. There's a moment in this movie after we are introduced to, you know, the kind of the asshole of the movie, Tank, who is voiced by Dietrich Bader. He's the one that took over after Z, has essentially retired, and Tank is just kind of an asshole. And the the documentary crew asks, like, so do you think of yourself as a role model? And he goes, role model? No, but I do think of myself as somebody people should look up to. Like, it just shows like the stupidity of his character, and I absolutely love it.
He totally reminds me of Will Arnett's Lego Batman.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And Joe Bluth from Arrested Development, like 100%.
Yes.
Absolutely. So great. And it's just, and again, the fact that majority of this movie is improvised is so great. And watching the behind the scenes of the cast in these recording sessions, and similar to the ladies from French and Saunders, for when they recorded their dialogue for Coraline, they were in the same room with each other, interacting with each other, touching props, getting that naturalistic feel of that only you can get from having the freedom to really bring a character to life. And I love that is how this movie was made.
Yes, me too. I always wish that people were able to be in the same room together while recording for animated movies.
Oh, yeah.
Always empathize with people who have to do all of their lines by themselves and just...
Yeah, definitely.
React off of the wall. Like,
right,
you can't play off anything in there.
No, you can't play off anything, and that definitely does show a lot of talent for those that can convey that, especially emotional animated movies like Frozen or Frozen 2, right? They weren't always in the same room together. It's very interesting how animated movies are made, and this one especially because the directors were very adamant about only directing this movie if the water was going to look as real as possible. And they created some new technology, and it worked. I mean, I was watching this the other day, and I was like, my God, that water looks amazing. Like
it really does.
The foam coming off of it, the mist, every tunnel and tube that they, that the cameras in, the GoPro cameras that are, there but not there on the surfboards when, we cut to the close-ups of Cody out on the water trying to take a wave. So at one point, we finally do get to Pengu Island. Like I said, we meet Tank. We also meet Reggie Belafonte, who is voiced by James Woods, who I absolutely love this character. He reminds me so much of Hades from Hercules. And, it's almost like James Woods doesn't really need to act. He just needs to be himself, and he can sell a character.
And he basically is Don King of the surfing world. He's got the hair.
Yeah.
He's a
oh my
total
God, the hair
sleaze
is so
bag.
ridiculous.
It's so perfect.
It's so nuts. Yeah, and apparently he was a marine otter. I did not know that he was what kind of otter he was in this movie. And mentioning the fact that this is animated and set in water with penguins, this is Sony Animation's first feature film that did not include any humans in it.
What other animated feature films has Sony produced?
Good question, V. They have done such films as Open Season, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, The Smurfs, Arthur Christmas, Hotel Transylvania, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, etc., etc., The Emoji Movie. So, they've done some movies, none that I necessarily would say that I've enjoyed, other than this one, I guess. I actually did like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs quite a bit. And the newest Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse from Spider-Man. So, those ones were definitely fantastic.
Yes, they were. So they've done some good ones.
They have, yes, and they've done an Oscar winner and several Oscar-nominated feature films as well, animated-wise. This one, Surf's Up, was nominated, and I'll tell you what it lost to when we get to that moment.
All right.
So after we meet Reggie Belafonte, we are introduced to Lonnie. She is the lifeguard on Pangu Island. She is voiced by Zooey Deschanel, and for those that don't know who Zooey Deschanel is, I have no idea where you've been, but she is New Girl is one of her claims to fame, which is great. Yes Man with Jim Carrey, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
500 Days of Summer.
500 Days of Summer, great movie as well. So, again, a lot of names in this movie with large filmographies. Cody and Chicken Joe are walking along the beach, and Tank is trying to deface a shrine to Big Z. Cody is not having any of this. So Tank, being the big man that he is, just tries to push Cody around about it. He says, "Oh, look at this. We have another Z fan. How cute is that?" And Cody's like, "You know what, man? I'll take you on anytime, anywhere." Well, who overhears this? Reggie Belafonte. So, of course, he's going to try and get everybody involved in this to watch Cody Maverick, a penguin from Shiverpool, Antarctica, take down Tank on one of the bigger waves that they can find for that day. And unfortunately, Cody has a wipeout, right?
Yes.
And Lonnie ends up taking him to a friend of hers named Geek, and he ends up helping him out of this wipeout funk. And for the rest of the movie, we are really treated to a lot of comedy, beautiful animation, a great soundtrack.
Yes.
And we'll get into the soundtrack in a little bit as well. But Cody and his friends they keep their head down, they train through the next couple of days, and they get ready to get into this huge surf competition to win the title, and be the next best surfing penguin in the world. And again, I adore this movie. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. I laugh so hard that I cry because it really is just absolutely hysterical. And I am beyond anxious to hear what V thinks of Surf's Up for V's first time watching this movie.
That's right. It was the first time I ever watched this movie. And I can tell you that I remember when these trailers came out, and I thought this movie looked so stupid.
Same.
I was not excited at all. And when you put it on the list, I was like, oh, God, another movie that, that's the comedy that really separates you and I a lot of times. And
yeah.
I was very pleasantly surprised.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I laughed out loud. I think this movie is so cute and has a really good message. And
yes,
I definitely laughed out loud multiple times throughout the movie. I thought Chicken Joe was hilarious. I loved the flashbacks about both of their dads.
Oh my gosh, that just kills me every fucking time. The first time I saw this movie and you see the flashback of Cody's dad, I couldn't breathe. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. He never knew his father. It's just so fucking funny.
And I absolutely am going to recommend this to my nieces.
Oh yeah, this movie is for all ages. However, it is PG rated. There is a line, V, I wonder if you caught it, that is definitely not a PG line if you know the actual terminology of what Cody says to Tank. It's so fucking funny. Oh, right before they do the surf off, Tank says to Cody, he's like, "I'm going to chum the water with your head." And Cody goes, "Bring it on, Peckerface." And Tank's like, "Peckerface?" Like, I was like, dude, they put Dickhead in a fucking PG-rated movie, animated with penguins, no less. And I remember the first time hearing that, it was another couldn't breathe moment. I was like, this movie is fucking brilliant.
Yes.
And the way that it's shot is so amazing. They basically did similar to how James Cameron did Avatar, with creating a computer-generated world with a video camera and literally holding cameras to get that feel for it. None of that is animated. That is all based off of the way that they were using the camera connected to the computer-generated images.
I thought it was so fresh and unique that they made this movie a documentary. It was, I just loved that style. It really added to the movie, I think. It was a perfect way to tell a sports story like that.
Absolutely, yes. And like I said, the soundtrack is fucking fantastic. I love how they use Holiday from Green Day, like right in the beginning of the movie. I love how they use Drive from Incubus, and I love how they use Stand Tall from Dirty Heads. It makes you want to literally go to the beach and just fucking get your feet in the sand, have a cocktail like Reggie Belafonte, and just sit there and watch people surf. I surfed in Hawaii. I did not like it because of my open heart surgery. It really stretched out my my scar, so it really hurt. I know I could have put some wax down there and whatnot. I haven't been on a surfboard in 20 years, maybe actually longer than that. I don't know if I ever will again.
That's what rash guards are for, bro.
Yeah, maybe in the future I'll get back on a surfboard. I don't know. But I really just, this movie always makes me happy and makes me laugh all the time. Like you said, it's got a great message. The friendship dynamic between Chicken Joe and Cody is great. And
him looking for Cody.
Oh yeah.
And when he finds the natives, oh Jesus,
yes.
that was so funny.
Oh, so
when he's telling the
funny.
story, he's like, yeah, and they put me in a nice warm bath and fed me too.
Yeah, really opened up my pores.
So great.
And then he just takes off. I was like, all right, guys, I'll see you later. So funny. Well, good. I'm very glad to hear that you enjoyed this movie.
And the joke that the penguins are trying not to make around him, which is this food tastes like chicken.
Yeah, that was so good. And there was actually a great moment with the squid on a stick. That Tank, he like takes a bite of it and goes, oh, it tastes like shit. And then they cut away from it.
Yeah.
So they almost dropped a shit in a PG animated penguin movie. So funny. The pre-production of this movie actually started in 2002, which was just before the pre-production of Happy Feet, which is interesting because they both came out around the same time, and Happy Feet was the more successful one. And I have not seen Happy Feet, but I don't have any idea how Happy Feet was more successful than this movie.
I think it was a musical and it had better marketing. There was a stint in the early 2000s that just had a couple of penguin movies. Remember Jim Carrey's Mr. Popper's Penguins?
Yeah, that movie's actually funny. That movie actually made me laugh quite a bit.
Your wife doesn't think so.
No. No. Actually, she does.
What?
We watched it and she liked it.
You
yeah,
said
she liked that
doesn't
Jim
like
Carrey
Jim
movie.
Carrey.
Yes, every now and then, you can like an actor
Okay.
in a different movie.
I just think she's wrong about not liking Jim Carrey.
Oh, I tell her that all the time.
Okay, good.
There is a reference to another movie in this movie, and I wonder if you caught it. It is during a sports cast on Spen, and the anchor at one point says, all right, let's get back to, and he says it, and it's a nod to this specific movie. We haven't discussed this
Is
movie
it
yet,
Penguin
but I think
Dodgeball?
it is, yes.
Yeah. Well, as soon as the Penguin version of ESPN popped up, the only thing I could think of is ESPN Ocho and Dodgeball.
Exactly.
So when they cut back and were like, Penguin Dodgeball, I was like, hell yeah. But they used Sal Masekela, who anyone who liked extreme sports in the early 2000s or watched the X Games, Sal Masekela still is the MC or anchor for all of those sports.
Damn, that's quite a career.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. That would actually be a fun job.
Being the announcer of extreme sports? Hell yeah, because you get to travel all over, meet cool people, but you don't break any bones.
Exactly. And you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. For this movie, the directors and producers had the entire animation team and majority of the rest of the production crew for this film take a trip out to Malibu Canyon and learn how to surf so that they could figure out how to animate surfing penguins a little bit better and to just get a feel for the ocean, because a lot of them apparently hadn't been to the ocean yet, which was strange. I guess that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we were saying, this is a documentary, and I mentioned that a lot of the dialogue in this movie was improvised. And, there's a lot of times in documentaries where the questions are written down, and maybe the subject has gotten the question before so they can prepare the answer. That didn't happen here. The questions were on the fly, and the answers were all on the fly. So everybody that's interviewed in this movie, Lonnie, like when I love her interview, especially when she goes, it gets a little crazy, and she kind of like does that dip back like with her fins and everything, and you just kind of like, it's just that nonchalant thing, but it's like, oh yeah, it gets crazy, and it's just so human to add to a fucking penguin. Again, this movie, I can't say enough how brilliant it is. Now, I like to kind of, find out who was in consideration for certain animated characters. It's one of my favorite things, especially when we do animated movies. And for Big Z for this movie, he's voiced by Jeff Bridges, for those that don't know who Jeff Bridges is. The dude from Big Lebowski. He's also in Tron and Crazy Heart and The Fisher King. One hell of a career.
Love him. I absolutely love Jeff Bridges.
Oh, he's awesome. And again, another great movie that he is in is Seabiscuit. Yeah, he's been great
so good in Seabiscuit.
Yeah, Seabiscuit is another great sports movie. So I guess I kind of do like sports movies. We're finding things out. So again, the other actors that were in consideration to play Big Z, 2 of them I don't see, 2 of them I do see. I see these 2. I see John Goodman and Bill Murray.
Yeah, totally John Goodman. I would 100% pay to watch that version.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2 that I don't see, and this could be because this guy has already done a voice in a Blue Sky animated movie. He was Manny the Mammoth in Ice Age. It was Ray Romano. He was in consideration for Big Z. The voice just doesn't work.
I don't like Ray Romano or actually Brad Garrett. I think it's just because I thought Everybody Loves Raymond was a terrible show and was completely unfunny, which is a hilarious connect.
It was terribly unfunny, which is funny. I never was a big fan of Everybody Loves Raymond either. I tried many, many episodes, and there were a few that had me laughing for a very short period of time. It wasn't all the way through funny for those 22 minutes, or enough for me to continue to come back. So I get you. And the other one that I just don't understand where the consideration was coming from, because his voice isn't necessarily beachy at all. Kevin James. I like Kevin James, but I don't see
No.
I just don't see it. Yeah, it was very
He's not
strange
chill enough.
consideration.
He's high-pitched and fast-talking, anxious. It's not...
Exactly.
Nah.
Yeah, now I'm with you on that. There was an actress in consideration for Lonnie, and I know for a fact she would have killed this role also. I love Zooey Deschanel in this movie, but I think Drew Barrymore would have been awesome. She would have been awesome
so
as Lonnie.
perfect.
Definitely. The budget for this phenomenal piece of animation was $100 million.
Jesus.
It was released... I know, it was a big one. It was released on June 8th of 2007. The U.S. opening weekend box office was $17.6 million. Not very good.
No.
The U.S. gross was $58.8 million. Really not very good at all. Yeah, the worldwide gross got a little bit better, but not by much, by only bringing in $152 million. So, unfortunately, this was not a commercial success. And that always hurts, especially when the movie's already come out on DVD and you're like, fuck, I should have seen this in theaters. But again, like you said, the trailer did not make it look good. And the crazy thing about this movie was it was released in June, and 18 weeks later, it was on DVD on the shelf for purchase. So it really didn't last long in theaters. And that's just unfortunate because the movie's so good.
It is.
I'm so glad, again, that you liked it, because when I watched it just the other night, I was laughing so hard that I texted you that I was like, I'm laughing so hard that I'm crying. I really hope you like this movie. And you've really, really adhered to my request to not tell me what you think about a movie until we start recording.
That's right.
And I do appreciate that, because I do like my authentic reactions to them and not, delayed or anything like that. So I'm very glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had a lot of laughs. Every time I watch this movie, I have a lot of laughs. I love the animation. I also love the fact that all of the penguins have their fur as tattoos. Like they really utilize that surfer tattoo body on these penguins in a very cool way. And
yes, their fur is tattooed like surfers or outdoors guys would have tattoos, and a lot of them are tribal. It's pretty fitting.
Yeah, the tribal stuff was really great. For this movie, there was a wave consultant, and he's a very famous surfer named
love that they used this person in this movie, because he's really the surfer in the world for our generation, and I love that they used him. Oh my gosh, I was so happy to see his name.
Yeah, his name is Kelly Slater, and
That's
my
right.
sister is also a huge fan of his.
Probably because he's pretty hot.
Oh, well, there you go. Again, I have not really been to any surfing competitions. I have been on a surfboard many times. This movie doesn't make me want to get on a surfboard, but it does make me want to go hang out at the beach, and I love it, and I'm glad V enjoyed it, and I hope that our audience will be introduced to this movie, because this did fall under the radar. A lot of people didn't know about it. I have introduced a lot of people to it, and so far I've had nothing but success with people enjoying this movie. So please do give it a shot. It is from 2007. It's available on Netflix now. It's an hour and a half. Watch it with your family. If you're our age, over 30, short from 40, also watch it. It's for all ages. It's PG, but you could show this movie to a 5-year-old and they'll have a great time.
Yes, definitely. And anybody who's over 30 would really enjoy it. Like you said, the soundtrack to it. They have New Radicals songs in there.
Yes, that's right.
It's so classic.
Yeah, it was very well done, very well put together. This film is directed by Ash Brannon and Chris Buck, like I mentioned before. Ash Brannon has been around for quite some time. He is an Oscar-nominated director. Ash Brannon was involved in The Little Mermaid and Toy Story at Disney. And Chris Buck, like I mentioned before, was the director on Tarzan. He is also the director on two of the most crazy popular Disney movies, Frozen and Frozen 2. And like I said, Surf's Up did lose the Best Animated Feature Film Oscar that year. V, I wonder if you might be able to guess what it lost against. It is a Pixar film from 2007.
Is it Cars?
No, it is not Cars. It has to do with cuisine.
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille. You and I recently watched that, and I believe it was your first time that you had seen it.
Yes, I finally got around to watching Ratatouille. Thank you for introducing me to it.
Yeah, definitely an enjoyable movie. I am a fan of it. The ride at Disney World is very fun. In my personal opinion, if I were pressed and asked which one I would have rather have won, I likely would have gone with Surf's Up, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, Pixar was the golden child of animation in the early 2000s. It could not lose, either in the box office or on any awards. I do like Ratatouille. I do think it's not top tier Pixar, though.
Right. So please do check this movie out. It's got brilliance on brilliance and comedy upon comedy. So do give it a shot. That is Surf's Up, and I think we can hitch a ride on the East Australian current and talk about V's pick for the week. What do you say, V?
I like that idea. I picked a classic Pixar ocean movie to complement yours. It's from 2003. It is Finding Nemo.
Yay!
For anyone who hasn't seen this movie in quite some time, or maybe hasn't seen it yet for our potential younger listeners, sorry about the cussing. Finding Nemo is about a clownfish named Marlin who has a wonderful home with his lovely wife on the edge of this reef. Beautiful location. And they're so excited because in a few days there's going to be parents, and there's a shot of a whole bunch of eggs hiding in this little alcove in a reef. Unfortunately, right in this moment of wedded and family bliss, there is a barracuda that comes upon them. Marlin tries to protect his family, but unfortunately he's knocked out. And when he comes to, his wife and all of his eggs except for one are gone.
Yeah, that's always so sad. Disney really knows how to get you in the beginning of these movies.
Man, and Pixar right along with them, right? I mean, at first I was going to argue and say, no, Pixar, but there's, of course, Bambi, right?
Yep. So,
no, they both know how to completely rip our guts out in the first 5 minutes of a movie. Childhood trauma, party for two.
Exactly.
And so that is how the movie opens up, and it flash forwards then a couple of years later, and we find little Nemo, who is the only surviving child of Marlin and his wife, waking up being ready for his first day of school. And we discover that Marlin has become quite overprotective.
Yeah, just a little bit.
In the last few years. To a point where, he, as a kid, if he was my parent, he would have driven me crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
And he takes Nemo to school, and you can see already that Nemo's kind of tired of the way that Marlin parents him, and he's just so excited to get out there and really cut that leash, that umbilical, and come on, Dad, let me live my life. And in his first day of school, which you get introduced to this gorgeous reef and all of these lovely fish characters, beautifully animated. I wish reefs still look like that, but unfortunately a lot of them have been dying off because of horrible human pollution, and so when I go scuba diving, unfortunately you can't really find reefs like that anymore. However...
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. However, you get to submerge yourself in this gorgeous alternate reality instead. And so Nemo's first day of school, he meets a couple of classmates who immediately really welcome him in, which is nice, and...
Yeah.
The teacher takes them to the drop-off, which, funny enough, is where Marlin originally was living.
Yes.
And the kids are screwing around, as kids do, and they see a butt.
That's right.
In fact, it's a boat. They just misname it. And the kids play a very classic game, and this is why Pixar and Disney have been so successful in their animation, because they are so good at anthropomorphizing animals, which is basically giving them human traits, right?
Yeah, right.
And so these kids are screwing around and saying, ooh, who can get closer, past the drop-off into the big open blue ocean, let's get closer to the butt. And this is the time where Marlin actually finds out that that's where the class had gone for the day, and he freaks out saying, "Oh my God, the drop-off!" He swims furiously over to rescue Nemo, and he's like, "Oh God, Nemo, what are you doing?" And the other kids are like, "Hey, he wasn't going to do it. He told us you wouldn't allow him." And Marlin's like, "Nope, that's it. That I knew it was too early for you to go to school." And this is where Nemo really starts to get fed up completely. He's like, "No, Dad, I'm ready for school. Stop babying me. I really hate you."
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, and he's just so frustrated by the way his father parents him and is this helicopter parent. And this is when Marlin starts talking to the teacher about the situation, and he turns his back, and Nemo, being as pissed off as he is, swims directly to the boat.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is the moment that the scuba divers, who own the boat, come up and interrupt this scene. And as a scuba diver, this scene really pissed me off because not only does the scuba diver touch the reef, which you're never supposed to touch anything, this asshole also steals a wild animal.
Yep.
He puts Nemo in a bag, surfaces out of the water, and puts Nemo in a container of water in the boat and zooms off. And this movie is about Nemo getting kidnapped and Marlin breaking through all of his fears, all of his anxiety to try to rescue his son.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's a Pixar movie, he meets a whole host of amazing characters throughout this journey.
Oh, yeah.
The number one being Dory.
Oh, Dory.
Who has short-term memory problems, which is such a great comedic relief to this movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
They also meet sharks and turtles and run into jellyfish and all sorts of other animals along the way, including deep-sea creatures, which is a kind of terrifying scene of this movie.
It kind of is, yeah. I watched it when I was watching this movie. I've seen this movie many times. I saw this movie in theaters opening weekend with my buddies. Like, we went and saw this. And I remember that sequence being like, oh my gosh, because every time I see pictures of fish like that, with that like bioluminescence from way down deep, it is fucking scary. It's like that Aliens of the Deep documentary, they literally are from another planet, but they're from our planet.
Yeah, they're just nice and deep.
Yeah.
And this movie is not only heartfelt, but is so damn funny.
Yes, it is.
And almost right off the bat, after the traumatic death of a parent that Disney is so well known for, Marlin is introduced to the other parents in the school, and they're like, "Hey, you're a clownfish, you must be funny."
Yeah.
And he then, because it's Marlin and he's so uptight and so anxious, he butchers a joke. And
oh, I love that moment.
oh my God, and it's a seahorse, a squid, and another fish. And they're like, for a clownfish, he's not that funny.
Yeah.
And the seahorse goes, "Marlin, it's okay." He's like, "Don't tell me it's okay, pony boy." Which is so good. There's great jokes about squids, and one of the students scares a little squid student, and he goes, "Oh, you guys made me ink," which is just so cute. But God, the two sets of characters that I absolutely love in this movie are when Marlin and Dory come across the sharks.
Oh, yes.
That are in a support group, which is just hilarious.
12-step fish group.
Yes.
Or fish addicts group or something like that.
Uh-huh. And also when Nemo gets to his destination, because he has actually been kidnapped by a dentist in Sydney, Australia, and he gets tossed in the dental office fish tank.
Yeah, he does.
And all of the fish in this fish tank are fantastic additions to this movie.
Oh, I agree.
We get the classic line from Dory.
When life gets you down, you know what you gotta do?
I don't want to know what you gotta do.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
Which a lot of people like to quote, is probably the number one thing that's quoted from this movie, and I think it is so positive and such a great little mantra. But for some reason, I think it's because I just have a really dark sense of humor. My favorite quote from this movie, or at least the one I quote the most, is when they are in the deep dark trench and they are getting coaxed and lured by that fish with the bioluminescent light on its lure, right?
Uh-huh.
And then the fish lights up and Marlin goes, "Good feelings gone."
I like that part too.
Say that all the time.
One of my favorite moments in this movie is the meeting of the seagulls. The mine, 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 mine. I could not breathe when I saw this movie the first time, and those those guys were definitely some of my favorites that at the time I just could not get enough of those seagulls.
Yes, absolutely. And this film, like all other Pixar films, like most Disney movies, has a wonderful message.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes around when Dory and Marlin are talking about Nemo. And Marlin is so upset about everything that's happened so far. And he said, I promised I'd never let anything happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Dory articulates the moral of the story so beautifully.
I promised him I'd never let anything happen to him.
That's a funny thing to promise.
What?
Well, you can't never let anything happen to him. Then nothing would ever happen to him. Not much fun for little Harpo.
That's right. Not fun for little Harpo. He's lost his son, Fabio.
She messes up Nemo's name throughout the movie, which is a running gag and hilarious every time.
It is. It really is. I think the Harpo one's my favorite.
Yes.
Thing. Not fun for little Harpo.
Yes. Oh, gosh. And that's Finding Nemo. It's this grand adventure under the sea.
Oh.
It is, I think, better than The Little Mermaid.
Oh, really? Interesting.
It has a better message. Come on.
It does have a better message. There's just no songs in Finding Nemo, so...
No, that's true.
Yeah, but it does have a good soundtrack.
Pixar is different from Disney in that way. Most of their movies are not musicals.
Indeed.
And so that's Finding Nemo, a beautifully made movie, and this is in the heyday of Pixar. As I said, it was released in 2003, and this is the order of Pixar's first couple movies.
Oh, yeah.
Toy Story.
Perfect.
A Bug's Life.
Still entertaining.
Toy Story 2.
My favorite of the Toy Stories.
Mine too.
Toy Story is perfect. Toy Story 2 is perfection.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Monsters, Inc., which is my favorite Pixar movie.
Oh, really? I do love Monsters, Inc.
Finding Nemo.
Also enjoyable.
And then The Incredibles.
Oh, amazing movie.
Talk about batting 1,000, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And another reason why this movie is so good is just like a lot of other Pixar films, just like your film, it has a great voice cast.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I love most about animated movies. Voice actors, man. They are unsung heroes of filmmaking.
Hell yeah.
Albert Brooks, who is a comedian, voices Marlin. Funny enough, his birth name is Albert Einstein.
No way. Is it really?
Yeah.
That is hysterical.
He was born in 1947, and so when he started getting into the entertainment industry, he had to change his name, obviously. And so he changed it to Albert Brooks, which I thought was a pretty funny tidbit. He's appeared in a couple of, even though he's a comedian, he's great in dramatic roles, and this is one of the things that we love on this show, right? He's in Drive, the Ryan Gosling film.
Yeah, he kicks ass in that movie.
He does. He's in Out of Sight.
Is he really? I've only seen that one time. I think I mentioned that before. I got to see that one again.
You really do. And he plays a similar character.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he's also in Taxi Driver.
You know, I've only seen that movie one time, and that is a revisit that I must do.
Yes, absolutely. He provides his voice for another film that is a mixture of animation and live action. He's in Dr. Dolittle.
Oh, is that right? The first Eddie Murphy one?
Uh-huh.
Oh, cool.
Do you know who also is a voice in Dr. Dolittle?
I don't.
Ellen DeGeneres, who voices Dory.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. Ellen DeGeneres, we've of course heard some things come out about her show, which are very unfortunate, but I will always applaud and respect her for her bravery in the Ellen series back in the 90s, where she came out as a lesbian.
Yeah. I will always remember that Time magazine cover with her on it.
Mm-hmm. I actually watched that episode live when I was a kid.
Wow, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
I don't think I've ever seen an episode of that show.
It was funny when it was on.
Sure, yeah.
Alexander Gould voices Nemo. Cutie Patootie back in the day. He actually was on the show Weeds when he got older.
Mm-hmm.
He's Shane, one of the sons in the show Weeds.
Yes, he's the younger son.
He is.
As much of a pothead as I talk about being on this show, Weeds was not a show that I enjoyed at all. I watched all of it, but I didn't enjoy it at all.
That was the problem, because the first couple seasons were good. The rest of them were terrible.
Yeah, it really went downhill big time.
It jumped the shark.
It totally did.
Willem Dafoe voices Gil, one of the fish in the tank in this movie.
Have you seen that new meme going around about that fish?
No.
It says, it literally, and I'm not even fucking around, I'm going to have to send it to you, but this is a real meme that's out in the world right now. There's a picture of Gil from Finding Nemo next to a picture of Willem Dafoe, and above it says, I can't believe I didn't know the hot fish from Finding Nemo was Willem Dafoe.
Was
And
the
then
hot
somebody-
Willem Dafoe?
I don't know. It's somebody under it. It's like that Twitter response, like hot fish. Like, yeah. How is a fucking fish hot? So when I watched it the other day, I was like, yeah, he's not a hot fish.
He's
Like, you can't-
dark and brooding with a deep, gravelly voice. Of course he's hot.
Oh, I guess. I don't know.
Willem Dafoe, of course, has been in two of our picks. He was in your pick of The
Yes.
Lighthouse
Mm-hmm.
and my pick last November, Clear and Present Danger.
Hell yeah, great actor.
Allison Janney is
Oh,
the
yes.
starfish, and I adore Allison Janney. I love everything she does. My other favorite line in this movie that is tied for the first one I talked about is her line of,
Today's the day!
Oh yeah, we used that for our
premiere.
release. Yeah, that our premiere here at Movies You Miss Podcast.
Yes, the premiere of our podcast. We
That's
used
right.
that meme.
I like Allison Janney quite a bit. I absolutely was blown away by her in I, Tonya, and
Yes.
in everything that she is in. Like you said, she always delivers. She's fantastic.
She really does. She's great on the small screen and the big screen. She was in the TV show Mom and
That's right.
The West Wing. She plays CJ.
Oh yeah, that's right.
As you mentioned, I, Tonya. She starred in Juno, and she was actually my favorite
yeah.
part of that whole movie. She plays the badass stepmom in that movie.
Yeah.
I loved her. in that.
I haven't seen Juno in years, and I don't know if I ever would watch that one again. I used to like it, but for whatever reason, it just like started rubbing me the wrong way
Same.
later on in life.
And
I think it was the Jason Bateman thing, though. I
Thank
think we
you.
had this conversation.
Yeah, because I said the same thing. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was a bit much.
She actually is a voice in the animated movie I initially picked for this week.
Ah.
She's a voice in the movie Over the Hedge,
Oh, that's right. She is.
but I decided to go with our theme of ocean animated movies.
Yes.
She's also in an episode of Weeds, which is kind of funny.
Huh.
And one of my favorite roles of her all time is as the guidance counselor in 10 Things I Hate About You.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
Of course.
I think that was, West Wing was definitely my intro to her, but my comedic intro to
Same.
Allison Janney was absolutely 10 Things I Hate About You. That movie, that still holds up, I think. I haven't
Yes.
watched it in a minute, but I Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Julia
Alex
Stiles.
Julia Stiles.
Definitely going to be
Larry
on the
Miller.
list. Oh, Larry Miller in that movie is so funny.
He's so fucking funny.
It's totally going to be on our list.
Sweet.
Stephen Root voices Bubbles in this movie.
Yes. Stephen Root.
Who we love. He was Milton in Office Space. We'll always remember the red stapler. My favorite role of his is in Dodgeball.
Oh, yes.
And lastly, he was in one of my picks, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
That's right. Hell yeah, he was.
He's so
He's
good
in
in
most
that
Coen
story.
Brothers movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good.
I love him in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yes, me too. That's the radio
actually-
station guy.
Yeah, so good. I've met him briefly on the Paramount lot. He had come up to me and asked where the Barry stage was. And I was like, I don't know. But I can tell you right now that I'm a big fan of yours. He's like, oh, thank you very much. And then he turned around and walked away. And that was it.
Perfect interaction.
That was my Stephen Root moment, and I'm totally fine with it.
I love that story. Jeffrey Rush plays a pelican in this movie.
I know. It's so funny. Every time I watch this movie and I see his name come up as Nigel, I'm like, there's no fucking way he's the pelican. I always thought he was one of the sharks, honestly.
Me too, and I always forget that he's Australian. I always think he's fucking British.
I think he's British too, son of a
Right?
bitch. Yeah.
Some other roles he's in, was in The King's Speech, an Oscar-winning movie.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's Captain Barbossa in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Hell yeah, he is.
And he also starred in Shine, which is where he won his Oscar.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I remember him winning. It was back in the 90s.
Nice.
Speaking of the sharks, as you mentioned,
Yes.
the hammerhead shark is played by an actor you're a fan of.
Oh, really?
He's an underrated Hulk.
Oh, Eric Bana?
That's right.
Oh, very cool.
Yes, Eric Bana is the hammerhead shark in this movie. He
Awesome.
also is from Australia,
Yes, he is.
which is great. I loved him in the Star Trek movie. He's such a good evil guy.
Yeah.
Jesus
Oh my gosh, as
Christ.
Nero. Yeah, he was so badass.
He was in your pick, Black Hawk Down. And he's in a movie that you like and I don't, Troy.
He is in Troy. Yes, I know you don't like that movie. I haven't watched it in a long time. I might have to revisit and see if it holds up at all.
Good luck with that. Bob Peterson voices Mr. Ray. He is an early Pixar employee.
Oh,
So not only did he work on a bunch of Pixar movies, but he also voices the dog Doug in the movie Up.
oh, cool.
Which, did you ever know that Doug is spelled D-U-G?
No, I didn't know that.
That's so cute.
That is pretty
So
cute.
perfect. And speaking of my favorite Pixar movie, Monsters, Inc., he voices Roz,
Oh, awesome.
which I
Always watching was asking.
God, I love that character so much.
Oh, yeah. You didn't turn in your paperwork.
So Andrew Stanton is a long-standing director at Pixar and directed this film. He wrote and directed WALL-E,
Hell yeah.
Finding Dory.
Oh, sweet.
He also directed John Carter, which is adapted from my all-time favorite sci-fi book series and is often maligned and one of the biggest flops in movie history, and I don't care, I still like the movie.
I've been wanting to check that one out. I should watch that one.
Pretty sure it's on Disney+.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. He's co-director on A Bug's Life.
Nice.
He also wrote Toy Story.
Excellent.
He wrote Monsters, Inc.,
Perfect.
and he also helped write A Bug's Life as well. So this guy is a Pixar legend.
Indeed, he is.
Really happy he directed and wrote this film. And he pitched this idea to the head of Pixar, John Lasseter, legendary man himself,
Yes.
in an hour-long pitch session.
Wow.
He used elaborate visual aids and character voices to really portray the story. And at the end of it, he stood there exhausted and he asked John Lasseter what he thought. Lasseter replied, "You had me at fish."
So he could have just stopped 59 minutes earlier and been like, great, green lit, awesome.
Yes, because Pixar likes to ask, what would happen if?
Right.
What would happen if toys could wake up?
Mm-hmm.
And so Nemo's father, Marlin, was originally voiced by William H. Macy.
No way.
Yeah,
Interesting. So he actually recorded the dialogue?
he did.
Wow.
And Michael Eisner, after seeing an early cut of the film, maligned it.
Oh, wow.
He told the board of directors, this will be a reality check for those Pixar guys.
Oh, really?
It's nowhere near as good as their previous films. Of course, they think it's great. Trust me, it's not.
Wow.
So Andrew Stanton went and recast the role of Marlin to Albert Brooks. It went on to be one of the highest-grossing animated films of all time.
Suck it, Eisner.
And that was right around the time Pixar was renegotiating the distribution contract with Disney.
Hey.
Not only did it totally put Disney in a terrible position with Pixar, which, by the way, was owned by Steve Jobs at the time,
Uh-huh. Yep.
but it also really continued to erode Eisner's reputation and his power, and it was one of the reasons why Eisner was finally fired from Disney. Thank God.
Finally is the operative word. It took way too fucking long.
Way too long, I agree.
Yes.
So thank you, Finding Nemo, for helping with that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew Stanton.
And thank you, Andrew Stanton, yeah.
And Albert Brooks for essentially coming in and saving Pixar's ass with your voice talents.
That's right, yes, he was perfect as Marlin.
Oh, yeah.
And so the great white shark's name in this movie is Bruce. Hello, my name is Bruce.
Hi, Bruce.
Bruce is a nickname given to another famous shark.
Oh, that's right.
I wonder if you made that connection.
I did. Dun
Dun-dun.
dun 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 dun. Jaws, sons of guns.
That's right, because the mechanical shark in Jaws was nicknamed Bruce, after Steven Spielberg's lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff. Nice nod.
This movie came out in 2003.
Yes.
Work on the movie started in 1997.
Oh, wow.
Physical production began in January of 2000.
Damn.
and it had a crew of 180 people.
Wow.
This is why
That's
I love
impressive.
talking about animated movies, because we can discuss how fucking hard they are to make.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because this was a high-resolution movie, it was 1600 by 900,
Oh.
rendering a frame of this movie, which is a 24th of a second,
Yeah.
would take up to 4 days.
Good Lord.
Because of the complexity of the underwater environment, the sunlight coming through the water, and how it hit fish scales.
That is madness.
I would literally go mad.
Oh, yeah.
And because the look and feel of being underwater and just the water in general was so important for this movie, similar to a lot of Pixar and Disney movies of the past, they made sure to have the crew or animators interact with the real life versions of what they were doing.
Right.
I will never forget the behind the scenes Lion King shots of when they brought a real lion into Disney for the animators. Yeah. I was probably 10 or 11. I will never forget that behind the scenes vignette.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
And so a lot of the production crew all got scuba diving licenses.
Oh, wow.
They also had a lecture from an ichthyologist, one of my favorite scientific words, I don't know why, come into Pixar and lecture them. And for anyone who remembers, ichthyologists were the scientists in Creature from the Black Lagoon, one of my picks from last October.
I was going to say, I've heard that word before.
Yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon, baby.
Awesome.
And they did such a good job developing the look of the surface of the water. They had to make it more fake because test audiences just thought it was just shots of the real ocean.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So they basically had to scuff it up a bit.
Damn. I wonder if that was a problem with Moana, because that water literally looks real.
It really does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's impressive.
It's amazing. And for anyone who's ever watched Pixar or follows the Pixar movies, they know that the Pizza Planet truck shows up in Pixar movies, and you can see it outside the dentist's office on the road in Finding Nemo.
Love it.
And anyone who's seen this movie outside of the theater will see the updated version where at the very end they dedicate it to the memory of Glenn McQueen, who was a Pixar animator.
Oh.
He would later be honored as the namesake for the main character of Cars, Lightning McQueen.
Oh, very cool.
Glenn McQueen, Lightning McQueen. Get it?
Got it, yes. Yeah, that took a minute for me.
So Andrew Stanton, awesome director.
Yeah.
He voiced Crush, the turtle.
Awesome.
And he also voiced some of your favorite characters.
Did he?
He voiced the seagulls.
Oh, sweet. Fantastic.
Yeah, and this is actually the first Pixar movie that isn't scored by Randy Newman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and so Andrew Stanton went and asked Danny Elfman, who turned him down, which is good because that would have been a totally different vibe.
That would have been a very strange Nemo vibe, yeah.
Yeah. He also asked Hans Zimmer, which would have been dope.
Yeah, it would have been real good.
Both turned him down.
Wow.
So then he went and got Randy Newman's cousin, Thomas Newman.
Oh, wow.
And Thomas used a 105-piece orchestra to score this film, and it is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is a good soundtrack.
It is, yeah, it's a great score. Ellen DeGeneres was the only pick for Dory. This role was actually written with her in mind.
Awesome. She did a great job.
She did do a great job, and I love Finding Dory. That is the sequel to this movie. Highly recommend it. It's a little bit...
I gotta watch that one again.
Yeah, it's a little bit forgettable, but great every time you see it.
Okay.
So, Michael Eisner, you can continue to suck it because this was the first Pixar film to win Oscar for Best Animated Feature.
Hell yeah!
That is because Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Toy Story 2 all came out before this award was introduced.
Mm-hmm.
The Oscar for Best Animated Feature was actually introduced in 2001. Monsters, Inc. lost this award to a movie you think has aged terribly.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Shrek.
That's right.
Ugh, so stupid.
Hindsight being 2020, what a terrible call by the Academy.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
And this movie surpassed The Lion King to become the highest grossing animated film of all time at the time.
Wow. At the time, yeah.
Because though this movie cost $94 million to make...
Oh, wow.
higher than yours several years before yours.
Mm-hmm.
It grossed $381 million in the United States.
Wow.
And $941 million worldwide.
Oh, holy shit.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Now, unfortunately, it is no longer the highest grossing animated film of all time.
Oh.
Can you guess the highest grossing animated film of all time as of today, at least?
Give me a hint and I might be able to.
It is a remake.
It is a remake. Okay. Highest grossing animated remake.
We both hate it.
Oh, was it the Lion King
It
remake?
was The Lion King.
Oh, terrible.
I know. I'm so bummed out about that
so
stat.
awful to find out. Terrible news.
Granted, I don't think these are adjusted for inflation. However,
Right.
The Lion King remake is the highest grossing, which sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Frozen 2 is number 2.
Hey.
Super Mario Brothers movie is number 3, which is also disappointing.
That's really not good news.
Frozen is number 4.
Oh.
And Finding Nemo is now ranked number 14.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and as of September of 2015, Finding Nemo is the best-selling DVD of all time in the world with over 41 million copies sold.
That's insane.
Yeah. So think of how much money it made off of DVD sales on top of all that.
Yeah.
On
Madness.
top of the $941 million it made originally.
Damn.
And that is Finding Nemo, a fantastic animated film for the whole family that is still holds up, and you can watch it right now if you have a Disney Plus subscription.
Excellent. I have it on DVD, but I did something I don't normally do. I watched it on Disney Plus because it was in 4K, and I gotta tell you, it was absolutely gorgeous in 4K, so I'm very glad that I watched it that way.
Good. I'm glad you did too.
Yeah.
So that is our ocean-themed animated episode this week. John, thank you for spearheading this topic.
Definitely.
This theme. And would you watch Surf's Up with your grandma?
Oh, yeah, I did. At least once, I know, for sure.
Good.
Yeah, it was a very enjoyable movie for the whole family, like I said. And I'm glad that I did get to watch it with my grandma because she enjoyed it too.
Good.
Yeah. And V, would you watch Finding Nemo with your grandma?
I definitely would. I'd watch it with anyone in the family, including my nieces.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah, I plan on showing Surf's Up to my nieces when they're maybe another year from now.
Totally.
Yeah. Dude. One of the reasons why I saw this movie in the theaters with my buddies and not my parents, coincidentally enough, my parents were in the same theater when my buddies and I saw this movie, but in the trailer, seeing Crush and his whole dude, everybody in my group of friends was like, oh my gosh, we got to see this movie because Klimch is the turtle. Yeah. So we went and saw it because of that, but we all had an absolutely great time. We laughed our asses off, and we walked out of the theater basically going, mine. It was really, really funny.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Hell yeah.
Well, for next week, we're taking a bit of a turn because we're going back to classic films.
Yeah.
I picked my favorite, probably for both of them, Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn movie.
Oh, nice.
My father introduced me to this film when I was a teenager. It is called The African Queen.
I have never seen this movie, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
And John, what did you pick to complement that film?
I picked the Michael Curtis-directed 1942 classic from 1942 starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, Casablanca, everybody.
Which you and I saw in theaters this year.
Yes, and it was my first time, and I went out and bought the 4K the same day.
And it was my first time, and I did not buy the 4K, but I have the digital copy now.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a great movie. I can't wait to revisit it again because it's been a few months already.
Yeah, so we're doing a Humphrey Bogart classic movie episode.
Hell yeah, should be good.
Yeah.
Oh, V, real quick before we sign off for this episode, we do have a new review that came in last week that I'd like to share with our audience. It's a very nice review. It's a 5-star review, which is great. It's titled, It's All in the Details. I love all the BTS facts about the films. It makes me want to watch and rewatch the movies in each episode. You can hear the passion for the art of filmmaking and experience from both co-hosts. I'll definitely be recommending my movie-loving friends to Movies You Miss podcast. So thank you very much. Me, 0 numbers. Appreciate it. Send us your address and we'll get a sticker out to you.
Thank you so much. We are always so touched by written reviews. Anytime you have an extra minute, if you can write one for us, it's so, so helpful. Or if you can support us in any way you can, that includes sharing social media posts or telling your friends and family about our podcast. There are many ways to help support us and show us your love.
Absolutely.
And we love you right back.
We do.
And John, I think that wraps up this animated episode. We like to wrap up with film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
you can't connect to animals in animated feature films.
Dude, animals in animated feature films make me cry.
Yeah, right? It's pretty nuts.
I cry in animated films frequently, actually.
It's nuts how it happens that way.
Oh, God. Disney and Pixar, well, and now Sony, know how to get it done.
They do indeed.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.